Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and a tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Thursday edition of my bi-weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream, Crafting the Deep, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Call from the Deep. I totally forgot to share it on the Discord. Let me do that real quick. Clack, clack, clack. If you're playing characters Gottwald, Moxava, or Twirl, the stream is not meant for you. It will be full of spoilers, but for the rest of you, always welcome. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday. And join our official Discord server with an invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. For campaign, we use Roll20. For streaming, I use OBS Studio. I meant to get a warmer drink instead of a cold drink, but I'm usually okay during the day. God, I apologize for my Monday streams. Are just horrible. Like every Monday evening, my voice just leaves me. I think I just went from like cold to like allergies with like no reprieve in between, which is incredibly annoying. I hope everybody's enjoying the new D&D handbook, player's handbook. I've got my copy, been looking at it, analyzing it, reading it. I literally, I have to spend like an hour of my day picking up my kids from school, so it goes. And I usually read a book or bring my Switch or do something while I'm literally waiting in lines and parking lots. And that's where I'm doing all my reading for the new 2024 player's handbook. So I would love to do a full stream or video stuff on that, but still making my way through that whole book. But my initial impressions are that I'm very, very impressed. I think it's very well put together, and I really dig in the art and just all the way it's organized. I like the way classes are listed first before species. That makes a lot of sense to me. And the little sidebars with the classes. I'm going through all the subclasses and everything, and the little the play examples are really fun that are actually annotated on the side. For example, I really love that, where it's like, hey, here's an example of how you play the freaking game and how it goes. I think that's incredibly insightful. So very, very positive so far. But this stream is about crafting the deep, and we are deep into Tentrix's floating layer, even though we're not actually going to get to this section with tomorrow's session. We're still in the middle of Driftwood Docks with Refus's awesome art here, and I don't know what else we can. I kind of talked about this on Monday, where it's like I don't know what else to talk about this particular area, because we've already started the battle and we're just going to keep on basically battling. I don't know why the lighting's set. I guess because on the GM layer, that's why. I gave my players probably too much of an advantage by letting them stealthily cast like two very powerful spells, but there's plenty of other enemies involved, and we haven't even really introduced the mini boss here, who's going to start hurling rocks, summoning his water elemental. It's more ballista stuff, and I could technically spawn new enemies and have them rush in as well. And the ship's going to keep moving forward, and they don't have to keep the ship alive. In fact, they have a folding boat, which their folding boat could definitely get them to the main area. And I think the way it's described for the floating layer is, I don't even think big ships are supposed to necessarily dock at the floating layer. I think they're just kind of all up in the harbor. Deep expansive waters at the harbor for around 10 pirate ships of sundry construction. So maybe it is surrounded by a bunch of ships. But I didn't think any ships were necessarily at the dock, but I guess I should put some there. Let's see. What was it? Hopefully you guys can't hear that siren going by. Let's see what happens if we put a main ship in the lair. I came in last night, haven't looked at it yet. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I think it's pretty good book. Which is good, because it's like a $50 book of a thing that we already all know how to play. Which should be pretty damn good. So, love that this is a token. You could come up here, and I took the party ship token. Shout out to Bear Gardner. And, I mean, yeah, you could put it right alongside if you wanted to of this map. Maybe I could put another ship on there to make it sound like there's at least one or two other ships in dock. Because it sounds like it's constantly coming and going. Like it's just a dock where people can go in, and that's Tentrix's main layer. Also, there's like a bar here, and it's just a good, like, I don't know, hideaway. And he's got like beds and stuff where people can crash and all that. So, but if the party wants to use, so I'm going to describe it the way they come out of this thing. First of all, I really hope they treat this like a heist situation. They can obviously roll up on it and just go hard. I'm really not interested in another ship battle, though, and hopefully they're not either, especially after the one we're just about to do. So I hope they treat it like a heist thing, and I will give them the opportunity to heist it. I think that's the key, right? When I describe it to them, I'm not going to describe like, okay, everybody's like, moving their ballistas in position, roll for initiative, and all that. I don't want to force the issue. So instead, the harbor will be at least a fair amount of distance from the area they're at, the Driftwood docks, to give them a chance to like anchor their ship somewhere. And if they want to take a rowboat or something in there. I mean, right now they haven't made any effort to really disguise their ship or try to act like a Black Armada ship or anything like that. It would be really smart of them, for example, to try and capture and interrogate somebody at Driftwood docks. I don't know if they've thought about anything like that. Basically, I'm hoping that they do a lot of the legwork for treating this like a heist, other than just showing up and being like, all right, well, let's see what we can see. At the very least, though, I will at least give them the benefit of not starting combat right away and instead giving them a chance to anchor their ship somewhere off into the harbor and maybe take, like they just did with Driftwood Docks, right? And then take their small folding boat and use that to access. And the interesting thing about this particular map that I'm using, again, shout out to Seafoot Games, Patreon, which has this as the Pirate Floating Fortress, which I'm replacing with the Tentrix's lair, which is kind of this like spoke wheel, smaller map. This is the same idea, though. It's a bunch of pirate ships lashed together to create kind of a floating fortress. You can see all the walls and stuff are all like literally like ships kind of stacked on top of each other. It does make for a little bit of a challenging map because it's 3 different levels, which is ships in general I find are actually confusing in top-down virtual tabletops because they have that like the very top of the ship has like the forecastle and then like the bottom area and then like the front area, but like the back and front of the ship are higher elevation than the middle, but they're all visible from the top. So it gets real tricky when you decide like which elevation you want to use versus being able to use the interior of part of the ship to come out. So automatically ships are just more difficult for that reason. And this is like literally multiple ships put together on a map. So that can be very challenging. For example, there's no way from the lower level to get up into the second level except via the stairs and the bar. The stairs in the, what I'm going to say is the barracks over here, and then the stairs right here by the main entrance. All of those actually are what lead to the second level, and then the second level has like ramps and wraparound, paths and things for players to get around with. So the nice thing is, even though this area has multiple points that the players can enter, I don't think they'll be able to trigger like the final boss fight too soon, which is always the struggle I find when doing dungeon design, is that just the classic like linearity versus non-linearity, right? You want your players, you don't want a dungeon to just be like, all right, here's room A, here's room B, here's room C. I don't think that's very compelling for the party, even though it's easy for the DM to run that dungeon. The other extreme example, though, is to give them like free reign of every single room, and they're all connected together like this branching spider web, but then wants to stop them from just going up one, very famously happened in our Lost Mine of Fendover campaign, where they just go up one single path all the way to the final boss room and then trigger that as like the third or fourth room. It's something that as a DM I always struggle with, trying to balance those two extremes, and I think this map can actually lend itself very well to that, given that I put the boss on the second level of this upper right corner. I've made some updates since last time we got together on Monday. I finally put dynamic lighting on here, which was a pain in the butt because there's a little fucking windows everywhere, which I like and it makes sense for the ship, but really annoying to paint that for dynamic lighting purposes. Also doors everywhere. There's like pillars because they're having to stack everything on top of each other. So I've done all that. What I haven't done is put in the actual lighting. Right now I've just got it on daylight mode, so it's just on for everybody. But if they do decide to come in at night, I don't think that's really going to change the makeup of like where everybody is. Frankly, I'm not going to change like, oh, these guys are asleep and these guys, because I figure with the pirate hangout, like the bar is always full. All it and the lighting, I believe it even says, is pretty much fully lit. Let's see what it says in here. Yeah, all areas of the lair are well lit by oil lamps or candles suspended from the ceiling by chains attached to pillars or placed top furniture. So it's like there's no lighting issues here. A lot of these creatures, I'm sure, have dark vision, but there are also a lot of humans that do not. So I'm fine with that. And I think all these little square things are supposed to be the lantern things, but I haven't lit those up. I probably will, just in case, if we want to create a little bit of a mood with cranking down the lighting situation. have some hot maiden mermaids that end up being a Hydra lure. This is the false Hydra. There's a really good episode of DuckTales, by the way, that I keep referencing whenever I think about like the false Hydra stuff. I don't think it's technically a Hydra. I think it was a plant monster, but it like had the whole town where it was, like it itself was like puppeting like all the towns. It's actually a really like horror episode, puppeting the towns, and it turns out it's just trying to lure people in there to eat them, which is pretty creepy. But this is probably the least supernatural part of the. Actually, I guess we're also coming off of a very unsupernatural part with the whole pirate lords. But the Black Armada is just very classic, like pirate lair. Probably the most supernatural thing is the fact that the boss here is also a Kraken priest and is a worshiper of Slarkrethel, and thus takes all the orders from that. So he's got some extra powers, including being able to summon this colossal octopus, which is also on the second level, because it's probably where they're gonna end up facing it. So the main entrance, as I will describe this area, is at the bottom where I've labeled it as 1 here. Even though the docks completely wrap around this area, so technically you can put your ship around the area. It's a deep harbor, like you can literally dock pretty much anywhere, but I think the main docking area is probably this lower right side, just east of the main entrance. It just feels like that's kind of got some extra actual like piers and docks area where you'd be able to have a larger vessel without getting anybody's way. And then the main entrance, you could either go into 1 or here in number 2, which I kind of had to fiddle with a little bit with the basic map, because I wanted a quicker way to get the party from outside to the bar. And as it was currently, this area, even though it had a door here, was actually just walls and was its own little area. And then the only way into the bar area was to either go back through the storage area and through the kitchen, which is accessible outside, which feels weird, or like right in the middle of the whole dungeon, there's like the main entrance to the bar. So instead, I'm going to put kind of this, like, it just makes sense that you dock, and then like the first thing you would go into is the fucking bar area, I would imagine, for pirates. So that's going to be kind of a big entrance area for this map. And I was thinking, because there's in the original adventure, there's an ogre zombie that they have who's not really a combatant, but is in like this tank or something. And then there's a goblin just whip cracking, pain in the ass. I was thinking about combining them and putting them in this kind of entryway area where people can come in. They like jot their names down as they come in. Maybe it's like hilariously bureaucratic or something right here, even though it's all pirate shit. And then the ogre zombie is like chained up and is like the bouncer. And then they like feed him every once in a while. And then if somebody gets out of sorts, then they kind of let the chain out and the ogre zombie has its way with them. So that's a fun way. And of course, I'm introducing this as a chaotic element for the party, right? And they can take advantage of trying to like free this thing, and it can be a rampaging force and stuff. Ogre zombie's pretty strong, by the way. 85 average hit points. Does it have multi-attack or only 1 attack? It only has 1 attack. Okay. Actually attacks with Morningstar, which is odd. But 85 hit points with Undead Fortitude. What a pain in the butt. Thing's going to stick around for a while. So I thought that was pretty fun. And then the bar area's got the Orc Veteran, has the Bard, which has a lot of their, pretty much the few spell casting capabilities that this whole base has. Berserk, oh, by the way, I'm zoomed out a little bit, so Minotaur, Lizard Folk. So the whole area, I'm just kind of being pretty willy-nilly about throwing a bunch of different enemy stat blocks in there, using what the floating layer said, which was bandits, lizard folk, orcs, 1 minotaur. What else is there? Oh, there's a rug of smothering. Maybe I should plop that somewhere. Goblins. Maybe I'll put like 1 goblin in there. And the goblin boss is grab it there. Powder is like a swashbuckler. She's a named enemy. Tentrix and Scummer are both there. Tentrix is a modified Kraken priest, and Scummer is a green slod. Desecratus is not there because they defeated the Naga pirate. Let's see, what else? And Karen. Oh, Karen is there, the Myrniloth. He's actually on the top layer, but he doesn't actually attack. He just uses his like layer actions, but I'm also going to use him to dispel magic. But he's only basically going to fight anybody who's outdoors, because he's on top and he's controlling the ship. So only if they really fight outdoors would he be involved in any fighting. I don't think he normally... Oh, and then Powder also, I'm going to have her with the Oaken Bolter. So she basically built that thing using the stereotypical like gnome technologist angle. And the Oaken Bolter is crazy powerful. That's like a construct ballista that seems pretty strong. But, the players are higher level than what this dungeon was originally designed for. I think this dungeon was designed for 8 or 9, and my players are level 10 going into it. They were fully rested going to Driftwood Docks. Obviously, Driftwood Docks is going to eat up a lot of their resources by the time they make it here. But I also will allow them to short rest between that area and this area. But I don't feel, or I do feel like, excuse me, I do feel like I could add, and have been adding, a lot more enemies than what was originally said, including the Thug stat block, which is significantly more powerful than like bandits or lizard folk, for example. So I'm just kind of throwing them around a little bit and trying to just, I don't know, create this new map area. I do have people on the outer walls, which is on a different map. Right now, I don't have anybody like running around the docks or any other ships that have appeared. I'm realizing I should probably do that, or it might feel weird. So maybe I'll need to put like 1 or 2 ships, like, I don't know, out on the side to make it seem like it's always people coming and going. So yeah, I've labeled them. Number 1, the main entrance. Number 2, this kind of entryway where people can go into the bar area after having docked their ship, get back the ogre zombie, and sign their names. I guess that means the main entrance is maybe locked typically, so maybe I should do that. Maybe they have to unlock it from upstairs. There's some people hanging out in this kind of large open air restaurant area, I guess, for the bar, even though the bartender doors, or the bar door, is way up here. Kitchen, I figure they've got one little, I need to add a window in there, I guess, to make it a jail cell. But I figure they've got whoops, that's a token layer. Let's put that on the lighting layer. Kind of I don't know, a drunk tank area where if people get rowdy, they got to stick them in there. And that's kind of what this area, they have a proper prison to the north on the 2nd level. But this is kind of their like, hey, you're acting stupid, you need to be punished for that. So I'm weirdly, I'm making the pirates more like lawful evil than chaotic evil, but I mean, somebody's got to be in charge of the pirate town, right? Otherwise, it's just literally crazy. That's why we like it. I'm not sure what to do with the north ship area, labeled number 5 here. Maybe just like a storage area with some armaments and stuff. The initial art just looks like a bunch of desks and things. Actually, maybe it's like Powder's workshop, where she's making, I don't know, all of her stuff. They've already got, the smoke powder's a thing in this dungeon, which I really like. Where's that mentioned? Is it a hyperlink, or is it mentioned somewhere? Where those things could like explode if they're like the classic, like just red barrels from video games. There we go. 2 kegs of smoke powder. They have literally cannons on the ship, or on this area. Mounted on the deck. I don't have cannons on this map. I could replace some of the ballista with cannons. Boy, they're really powerful too. DC 16 deck saver, take 8 D10 fire damage. Let's see, smoke powder. She's got her own treasure, dang. A key to the hidden store in area T16. I guess we can make T16 this area up here. But yeah, smoke powder, a keg. Explodes and deals fire damage to each creature within 20 feet of it. 9d6 for a keg explodes. Although it's only a DC 12 deck save to have the damage. So I figured that could maybe be in here, which is the upper end. That would actually be really dumb, though, for the play. This should probably be like water, then potent water. Potable water is what I'm going to say. So maybe I'll unlock that, because they would not store the fucking exploding barrels right next to the sleeping quarters. Even pirates aren't that dumb. So maybe I'll put a bunch of barrels up here, and that makes sense why the door would be locked and be like, hey, Powder's workshop, nobody come in here or something. And there'll be a bunch of like smoke powder and various things. That'll be a fun kind of pseudo treasure place, and there's kind of like guards outside just hanging at the table. Tool mimics. You know what? If you think hard enough, anything could be a goddamn mimic. One of the entire ships could be a mimic. There was we used one time, there was a door that was a mimic in the Wreck of the Golden Crown, I think. That was pretty nice. So yeah, we like the barrels. Idea in the workshop. So let's go to T16. See what's in there. There's also a treasure chamber. Which I could also put that in the same area, I guess. Maybe even do another locked door. Locked doors amongst locked doors. Yeah, there we go. Crates and barrels. Tools. Beware smoke powder. The door has 2 keys, one owned by Powder, the other by Tentrix. The room contains 5 kegs of smoke powder. 800 rations. 100 kegs of ale, 100 flasks of oil, and a set of tinker's tools. So I'd probably make that her workshop slash where she keeps the powder and stuff. So probably just she's got a key to it. All right, so we like that idea. So we'll keep that as a locked door. We've got the bar area. And again, the party could come in at any different angle. I would really let them do it and just kind of explore and figure out how it's going from there. Although it is kind of, I think we have to go to the higher level maps to see which areas are guarded, but most of these areas are guarded. So we go to the second floor, which I'm calling BF, 1F, and 2F. If that makes any sense, but it makes sense to me. So we get to the second floor. The only way up to the second floor is, again, there's stairs here by the entrance that go up, which is right here. So this is not the ramparts, though, confusingly. There's like a middle mezzanine area. It's like just another place where people are sitting out eating. The second floor here is like another barracks, kind of, with like a nicer eating area down here. I've not put any dynamic lighting on these other maps. I need to do that as well. More mess hall here, more sleeping areas. There's not much going on until we get to the north side, and then all of a sudden that other ship on the north, I'm gonna make into a prison area where they have captured Sandbalay. I think we're gonna focus on Sandbalay. It was a fun character. He's been captured, and maybe he's been spilling the beans on the party. Maybe being tortured and all that stuff, so the party can free him. Also think about bringing in Drowned Wolfgar, who I don't remember what stat block is actually being used here. Maybe, I guess it is a Kraken Priest. Okay. So kind of a weaker version of what Tentrix is. But we can make that like a disciple of Tentrix and Slarkorthel and everything. But we could use him as the actual jailer. In this case, which maybe is beneath him, but maybe he's also doing a bunch of, maybe there's some shit in here that he's keeping track of and more organized. I don't know. But Sandbalay is captured in the prison here, and it looks like a little prison area, which there's that big wraparound walkway they can walk on. And then we get to where the boss area is. So this is all in the northeast corner. So this technically you can access the entire ship from the northeast, but it's heavily guarded. There's ballistas like, pointing down there and everything. In fact, this should probably have like Tentrix's ship on the northeast side, maybe. And maybe I could even tell the players that, hey, you recognize, because they did see it one time. So I wonder if I should even include his ship docked at the northeast side. That would be interesting. But currently, this is where there's a lot of people at. There's 2 people at each ballista. Oops, I need to make another person there. Let's put a thug or a lizard folk. Put a lizard dude down there. So I have to go back to the bottom layer. Got all kinds of priority options. Most of the stat blocks are pretty weak, but again, it's just numbers. Powder is the gnome swashbuckler, and then the oaken bolter. This thing is pretty sick. CR5, 117 hit points, has magic resistance, shoots 2 lancing bolts, or 1 lancing bolt and 1 harpoon attack. It basically either does a lot of damage with its attack, which it can oddly use in melee or ranged, or it can shoot a harpoon and then drag it 20 feet closer. And in a recharge, it can shoot an explosive bolt. So very, very awesome kind of mini boss creature right there. As well as we got the swashbuckler, we got the dudes manning the ballista. Then we've also got the actual boss, Sea King Tentrix, and his right-hand green slod, whom he controls with the gem, or however the slod thing works. Who the players have fought before, but he was able to escape. And of course, he would definitely try to escape if the fight went bad. Although, I wonder how obvious I should make it that Tentrix controls him with a control gem. Because that would be something the party would definitely get their hands on, and they would not be beneath using it as well. Where does it talk about control gems? Magic gem roughly the size and shape of a human child's fist. It's oddly specific. The gem is the same color as a slot. Another creature can use magic to draw forth the Slod's gem and use it to subjugate the Slod. The Slod must obey whoever possesses its gem. If a Slod's gem is destroyed, the Slod can no longer be controlled in this way. Immune to being charmed while so controlled. Certain spells can be used to acquire the gem. If the Slod fails at saving throw against imprisonment, the spell can transfer the gem to the spellcaster's open hand instead of imprisoning the Slod. A wish spell can be worded to acquire the gem. Not probably the best use of wish. Interesting. But I wonder if it's the case. Like, literally, is the boss having to hold the gem, and then as soon as the players acquire said gem, they just get control of the Slod? Maybe he's got, like, a necklace or something that controls him. I'm curious if any of you have used Slods and done the whole control gem thing. Because it does say in the text that that's how... like, Scummer isn't loyal at all. He's just got his control gem. Tentrix does. There he is. Very Davy Jones. A fire extinguisher for OSHA compliance could do fog cloud. That's pretty funny. Some kind of fire suppressant system that she's rigged up. That maybe just douses everybody in water and, yeah, sets up a fog cloud. If this was Divinity Original Sin, there'd be a whole, like, puzzly, like, environmental thing to have to work through to get into her workshop. So that's the boss room, and then the ship that he's in up there, which the party has no idea where specifically anybody is. But if I do have his ship parked on the northeast side, that might give them a clue, or just gives them a clue that, yeah, he's here. Like, yeah, his car's out front. I don't have a lot of creatures on this second level. I guess I could throw some more dudes on here. Put some lizard folk eating out here, and then some orcs. I don't think we're gonna be like necessarily aggroing all these people because it just gets tedious at some point. I think these are hammocks, so people are just kind of sleeping in here. We do have bandits as well. Why not? But it does give me the option for, if the party ends up really kicking ass, I can kind of pull in, like, you know, reinforcements from anywhere. Yeah, it's an up staircase, right? And then the very final level, and again, it's going to get confusing when you see the upper right. So look at how the upper right looks right now. With everything is there with the top of the ship, but then it's got the, you know, the door and the I was gonna say forecastle, but I don't know if the front of the ship is that the forecastle. I think it's the back of the ship. Nope, that's the bottom layer. So the top layer, so you can see it's the exact same top layer, but now you've got the giant like masts that are visible, and then just the top of the ship. So this is just kind of looking down now at this walkway, which is still here, but technically down a level. But now you've got the top of basically the three big ships that go all the way up. Which the only reason it's significant here is because the western side is also guarded by dudes on ballistas, and they're pointed out on the west side. And then the Marenoloth, who is actually, I guess, attuned to the ship and controls and moves it, is up here as well. But the adventure says that it doesn't really, like, it's got some kind of pact with Tentrix, but it doesn't really attack. Its whole thing is just to control the ship. So I figure if it had any spells to help defend the ship, it might end up using those. But I don't think it's going to attack. And Merloth's actually not very strong. CR3, 40 hit points. Fear Gaze, kind of cool, I guess. 60 feet. It makes an aura attack. It can cause frightened condition. It can teleport just to save itself. Main use seems to be, I guess, Charm Person, Darkness, and Dispel Magic. I guess Gust of Wind could knock people around too. I need to add more. I'm only putting one person in each ballista. I meant to do two. Let's put one of these bandits on there. Maybe some lizard folk. 2 lizard guys. I have not added up how many enemies are here total, but hopefully there's enough. And I don't have anybody really like patrolling or hanging out much, which I should probably do that a little bit more. But these guys just working with barrels and shit. I don't know. So this is a third rampart here. Oh, I see. The stairs. The only way to get up to this third level then. Okay, there's only 2 paths up here. One is you have to go from the second level of the bar to get up to the wall. Or, in fact, that's the only way, because I think that's the only door here. Because there's no door to this one. And then the other third level is the western ship, which is attached to the barracks. So yeah, you really got to study this fucking map to realize what's going on. I realize it's going to be a nightmare to deal with once the party starts like splitting up and exploring, and I'm going to have to start like putting people on different maps and flipping back and forth, and like the initiative is I forget how that works for players, but I guess if you roll initiative on one map and you move them to another map, I think they don't see the initiative anymore, which is a bummer. But I don't know a good fix to that other than the only other fix would be to put all 3 of these on one giant map and just move their tokens around, but that seems like a nightmare also. And also would really slow down Roll20, I assume. And then in terms of the final... Oh, and then we talked about, when the party arrives, I'm hoping that they can heist their way in. It does definitely mention that there's so many pirates coming and going, where as long as the party's kind of smart about it, they can actually sneak their way inside. Due to the constant changeover, it is easy for characters to blend in, provided characters wear suitable attire. They can infiltrate the ship. Doesn't even mention like certain skill checks or anything. Now, these characters are very infamous. I've already said that they're hunted down, by the Black Armada. I imagine they've, Tentrix has already done like, whole speeches about how they're coming in and they're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs. No, okay. But it's going to be harder for the players are going to have to use some kind of magic. Max got his head of disguise, which works well. They could try to pull off the Star Wars Chewbacca thing where it's like, oh, well, one of these guys is just, we're capturing them and we're bringing them in or something. Maybe that would work if enough of them had, excuse me, disguise stuff going on. The problem is they're all very, like, specific creatures. There's like the fucking turtle. There's a kenku. And granted, a lot of the creatures here are not humans, right? There's orcs and lizard folk and stuff, and Minotaur like Gottwald maybe can even blend in as one of the Minotaurs. Savra as a lizard folk. I think probably the most problematic is going to be Mac as a turtle is still pretty rare, and Twirl as a kenku is pretty rare. So Max got the Hat of Disguise, which should serve him pretty well. And then maybe Twirl can come up with some kind of robe disguise system. But I would encourage it. I would actually encourage this very much to be kind of a sneaky heist situation rather than a fight room-to-room dungeon crawl, because we've already had a bunch of fights in the last couple sessions. And I think this area just lends itself very well to being able to actually explore and pop in and do the fun, like, hey, what's up, fellow pirates? And yay piracy and all this stuff, which I think would go over very well, especially as they're trying to learn about the lay of the land and everything. So again, I would 100% encourage the party. Oops, I missed a door right there. To go that avenue. I can't directly tell them that. Well, maybe I can if I like embody one of the NPCs. Borges suggests it, that the party actually sneaks their way on there. But maybe they can, somebody can tell them and they can realize like, yeah, there's a lot of coming and going around here, and it's actually pretty easy to blend in with the crew as long as you act cool. And they'll be able to learn different things. And we talked about how maybe I could introduce the idea of, even though they sneak their way in, Tentrix is like fully aware that they're there. Like, it turns out, them fighting their way through Driftwood Docks obviously has alerted Tentrix completely to them coming in. But the enemies are actually acting cool. and it's them that are fully aware of when the pirates show up, and then maybe Tentrix can do his thing. I don't know what area I'd want to spring that on. You know, that all of that is kind of wishful thinking that I'm not trying to tie myself to, because it really depends on how the party handles their shit throughout all these different areas and situations, and it depends on where they go and if I can actually pull that off. So like this bar, I don't know if it actually lends itself. You know, there's a great place for a fight, clearly, but do I want Tentrix to actually show up here? It's not like he's got like a balcony that he can talk from and then disappear from. There is an upstairs area, which actually the upstairs it kind of leads to the boss area, doesn't it? Kind of in a roundabout way, yeah. Yeah, the path actually goes right from there, and then the stairs. There's the stairs up, so it would be like here, and you'd walk. How far is that? It's about 50 feet, 20 feet, 40 feet. It's looking at 100 feet. It's about 150 feet from his actual boss spawn is to be at the top of the stairs. So add another couple feet to get down to where the bar is, but you could technically do that. I could also give him some kind of teleportation magic, as a lot of bosses would probably need. It's gonna be Fort Belwarian again. I love that we keep like mentioning that as a thing too. Which maybe I should just rebuff the players and tell them to fuck off, and then they'll come up with their clever plans to make it inside. But yeah, I want to try to recreate that concept, right, of them like trying to figure out a way to get into an area that's very unconventional. And this map has a lot of spaces where they can get into, right? I'd love for them to come in the bar area first and deal with the, ogre zombie chained up and all that cool stuff. But, I've also said that's kind of the main entrance, and they may be like, well, fuck that area. There's, let's see, entrance on the left side. I missed another door. God, there's fucking doors everywhere. How many doors are on this map? There's an entrance on the west side that leads to the main area. There's also one that leads to the storage area. I may actually lock this door. As maybe one that needs to be... Yeah, I'm going to lock both those doors. But there is an entrance here. However, as we saw, this whole western side has like mounted ballistas on there. So they may be like, okay, well, that's a well-guarded area. The very north, there's no entrance. The northeast does have the entrance. That's where the boss ship is, but that's also very well-guarded. So the best area, the only area that's really not got like literally ballistas facing out at you is probably this eastern side, which you could enter 3 different doors. Although, again, I'll probably lock... people like locked doors in a heist, right? This is kind of a storage room area. So maybe lock this middle door. The main bartend area here, which I had to kind of... it's a little fucked up looking because I had to put a blank room over it to make it actually enter the bar area. And then you've got another door that actually leads just to this northeast side. So you can still park at the east side somewhere and then make your way to the northeast, which... I guess I should throw some dudes down there. They're just maybe moving shit around and like stocking up ships and stuff. I need to make this area a little bit more, alive and interactive, which is tricky when you've got like static tokens on a map. There we go. I'm excited about it though. I think it's hopefully we can pull it off pretty well. I have no idea how many sessions this is going to take. Because it could be anything from like 3 or 4 sessions to like 2, depending on if the party somehow triggers the boss fight fairly early. And then the only thing I've got really planned for the boss, I'll need to go over Tentrix's stat block again and probably buff it up a lot more since he is a major boss. But I do love the idea of him summoning this colossal octopus kind of nearby water. And that's him like summoning up like... God, I'm almost tempted to just have him summon tentacles. Like that's really what the octopus is. As kind of using his power with the Kraken Priest, is like he's summoning these. He's almost doing like a super powered version of twirls, like spectral tentacles, right? But these like giant things, and just almost using that instead of having it be a little creature, but maybe these like supernatural tentacles coming out and just using this attack, which is a +9 reach of 25 feet for 13 average bludgeoning damage, and then can grapple them, and then still use the tentacle slam. But I guess at that point are you rolling? Because the advantage here is a separate creature is rolling initiative and doing its own attacks. But if I make it an ability that Tentrix is doing, then it's probably happening as like, I don't know, layer actions or legendary actions or something. So I could see it going either way with that one. Yeah, we do have the baby Kraken or juvenile Kraken. It didn't really make sense that Tentrix would be able to summon it because I think the players, through their machinations in the styes, kind of freed the Kraken from the influence of the Black Armada. Uh, and perhaps even the Elderbrain Slarkarthel doesn't have control of it because it was like spawned from it, but it broke off. And maybe that's what they were trying to do, is establish like control and domination, but the players were able to thwart that, interrupt it, and thus they kind of released. They didn't defeat it though, so they released this juvenile Kraken into the world. And then it turns out the juvenile Kraken actually uh, is like out for vengeance. I got coughing in. And that's why I had it show up and destroy the Desecratus ship at the end. So it's almost more of a Deus Ex Kraken where it can show up to sort of aid the party because maybe it also instinctively hates anything to do with the villain faction, the Black Armada, because those were the ones that like tortured and tried to enslave it basically. Which means maybe it could even show up at the end to like help the party during a severe like, oh, they need some serious help, and maybe it's the younger Kraken can destroy, and maybe it's been, and I don't know, maybe there can be a cool thing at the end where Toril can like change his allegiance to like the young Kraken or something. I don't know. We can work with that. But so in other words, I'm thinking about using the juvenile Kraken as a mysterious, powerful, perhaps even potential ally for the party. Even though it's definitely not allied with the party. So that's the situation there, I think. And I hope that's not too confusing to unleash a colossal octopus after they've already dealt with the tentacles of a Kraken. But I just think this is a fun, unique stat block that was invented for this adventure specifically. So I would be, I think, remiss not to use it. Oh yeah, I didn't create his homunculus. Tentrix's pet homunculus. I don't know. I guess you could just tease the fact that it's like he's the equivalent of a parrot, but he's a creepy well, they have the, it looks like a, I don't know, bat pig flying creature thing. Kind of like a chubby imp. But yeah, I can telepathically talk to Tentrix, so maybe it's the thing that's been spying on the party, at least as far as they made it to Driftwood Docks. So importantly, Tentrix doesn't know that Slarkarthel has been replaced by Zelix 4. So maybe they'll be able to find in Tentrix's lair some obviously notes about where Slarkarthel's main area is, which is the Purple Rocks region. And maybe he'll even mention the fact that Slarkarthel has been more aggressive as of late and pushed us to more power than ever. I don't want to make him like, but I fear for that's not a Tentrix rules, I think. So maybe he's celebrating the fact, he doesn't understand that it's because there's actually like mind flayers behind the whole thing. Tentrix cares little for his life, believing the Kraken can bring him back from death, but threats to his floating lair crack his turn exterior. If his lair is threatened, he reveals information. That's interesting. So he actually loves his beloved ship. Okay, so that could be like his bond. Yeah, my crew or kin. Mess with him. Well, not like his bond was his ship. So I didn't think about that. That's true. They could try to get information from him. Usually whenever I do that, I've done this several times, by the way, and hopefully my party not get annoyed by it, where I have the person's like head explode right when they try to give information, which is of course the elder brain like just killing you before you can give too much information to the party. And in fact, this is where I got it from. Tentrix's link with Slarkarthel and therefore Zelix 4 means the Elder Brain can use an action to deal 90 psychic damage to Tentrix, killing him instantly. Zelix 4 does this if Tentrix is about to reveal the location of Iscarl. But how would the party know how to get there then, game? I don't know. There's some... At some point, they're going to have to find correspondence or something that tells them Purple Rocks is the important region. Because they don't have to necessarily know Iscarl yet. And in fact, they may give away the game too soon because they need to go to Purple Rocks first, which is like the creepy like Lovecraftian, uh, what do they call them? Kraken Society. That's like where their main area is. And then Ascarl is right there. That's where the Kraken layers. Tentrix is brutal, brash, and uncaring. He's traveled across Faerun and knows his oceans like the back of his hand. He's arrogant and believes himself undefeatable. He's transformed beyond his human form. Tentacles hang from his face like a twitchy, fleshy beard. His eyes ooze ink down his face in staining streams. There's a flowing leather overcoat and a tricorn hat. Let's see. Entry's vessel came across town attack. Tried to kill the Slot's blade, hit the control gem in his head, was removed, gain control over the chaotic creature. Oh, maybe his weapon has the control gem. Thenceforth, the Slot has obeyed Tentrix, who found he could teach it many things, including how to captain a ship. Eventually, the Slot became a notorious pirate in its own right, adopting the identity of Captain Scummer. Tentrix elevated the creature to pirate lore after Scummer sank a flaming fist vessel. Scummer would rather not be controlled by Tentrix, but has no ambition to retrieve the control gem himself. If the characters retrieve the gem, the Slot accepts their control. So this is a very important plot point here. And could very well change the tide. Huh. I wonder if we could even make this a magic item then. You could also argue that said thing maybe requires attunement, but because that would make it more balanced. But then the party wouldn't be able to just steal it. I guess they wouldn't be able to activate it in the middle of the fight, though. So I'm going to really have to think about this. I kind of like my players would abuse the shit out of this poor guy. And a Slot is like pretty powerful to have in his ally also. But if we make it like the gem has to be attuned to, that's a little bit better pill to swallow for me as a DM. Captain Scummer looks like a bloated bipedal green toad with a gaping maw and heavy brows. Scummer's identity as a pirate captain is reflecting his choice of attire, a bright red frock coat. Scummer wields an oar adorned with fish skulls as its staff. Although Scummer can shapeshift into human form, it does so only to avoid certain death when commanded to do so by Tentrix, which it did earlier to escape from the party, even though they tried their best, Mac especially, to hunt him down and not let him survive. Yeah, motherfucking Slod's a CR8, and it has a once per day fireball, a 2 per day fear, and can basically just cast fire bolts. It's magic resistance, has regeneration. Like, this is a very, very strong creature to get control of. That's very interesting. I mean, I kind of like the idea of having, like, take one of the enemies off the field. At the very least, if you destroy the gem, or you remove it from Tentrix, then Captain Scummer I could see like turning invisible and just like fucking off, which would be a huge advantage for the party as well. Karen enjoys life aboard the ship. They're paid well, despite their loyalty. Consequences are under no obligation to fight in the ship's defense. That's for Charon, which is the Myrnaloth. The quartermaster is a young gnomish woman nicknamed Powder, richly covered with soot and sawdust. She wears a pair of eyes of minute seeing. Is rarely seen without a pipe in her mouth. He was a swashbuckler, and I had where she was the one that built the oaken bolter, and this is her whole workshop up here too. Which I could put her in there, but I don't know. I could go either way with that, I guess. If I want to separate, if I want to create more of a dungeon-y separate room encounter thing versus like here's the big cinematic showdowns. Which if it's a big cinematic showdown, I'd rather have her and the Oaken Bolter up near the boss. But I guess I could see that going either way. I could put her and the Bolter together here, and then maybe some more treasure, and thus create like a separate, like optional, challenging room for the party to deal with. But she could obviously be called in to in case alarms start happening. What's really crazy here is there's a lot of enemies, and if the party wants to try to fight everybody, they can. But usually when you have a giant villainous layer like this, your goal is just to take out the head boss, which is true. So I need to make sure that whatever information they need, which is the location of where they need to go next, would be in Tentrix's lair, so that they don't necessarily have to fight their way through everything. And like they don't need to rescue Sambale if they don't need to. He's not super critical to the story. Caught up in Menagerie by the end, yeah. And then Grab It is a goblin boss. Most of the crew aboard are monstrous and respond better to hurt orders than those from the pirate lords or Tentrix himself. Her commander of the crew comes from ruthlessness. She has a deadly habit of kicking crew who question her authority off the plank down to the zombie tank. They're torn apart by the undead ogre within. So I kind of recreated that by having her and the undead ogre together. I don't have a situation where I can literally have a tank where there's an undead ogre around. I guess I could have put him in the water, but this is just open ocean, very deep water here. Which I'm not messing around with like having sharks in there or anything like crazy. It's just water. Just deep ocean water with fish. Yeah, I've got more work to do. Clearly, I've got to do dynamic lighting for the next 2 levels. Probably stock a few more creatures here and there, but a lot of it's just going to come down to how the party approach it, which I don't expect them to even make it here on Friday, right? We're going to probably do the whole session with Driftwood Docks and getting through that big giant fight and see whether or not their ship even survives that gauntlet or not. So we'll have a lot more chance to talk about this this area, and then by the time they make it to this area, we'll have to probably do some more, emergency prep work depending on what they change. But then we can actually talk about the very final areas coming up. Oh, we need to introduce the whole Merid thing. Fuck, I didn't even talk about that. The Tentrix has a fucking Merid conch that he can use to summon a Merid. Holy shit. Yeah. So maybe I do want to separate Powder and the Oaken Bolter, because this is going to get kind of nuts. That means there's 2 things the party can like swipe from him that he's got power over that they could then take, which is the fucking Merid Conch, which summons the Merid, and the Slod Gem, which summons the Slod. Do I want to give them access to both those things? I might have to just not do the whole gem thing with Scummer now that I realize he's got the fucking Merid Conch, because that's going to be just too much, I think, to give to the party, and Slods are just super powerful. So I might be talking myself out of that one. Yeah, I forgot he's got the Merid Conch, which I may also not introduce that as a traditional, like that may literally just summon the Merid for it to come on and chat with, and you can bargain with it to basically serve you or something. Because if you follow the item, technically the item is like the genie lamp. There's like a 10% chance of having the creature spawn in and just give you the wish spell like 3 times. Like that's a little much. And also, if the villain had access to that wish spell, then things would be a lot different. So instead, maybe it just summons the Merid, and I don't know. The Merid can. I may have to figure out another thing, because it is fun to have like a genie lamp type situation, but you don't want to literally just give them the fucking wish spell. Maybe the Merid can do things according to what it's capable of doing, like which I think is what we did in Tomb of Annihilation, right? When they had control of the genie in that one, where it's like, hey, I can serve you, like in battle, I can help you, or I can cast a spell that would help you, or I can, ferry you across a cliff, pit, whatever, because I can fly, like those kind of things. Like, so it's not really like a magical wish spell, but it's like a, hey, can you do things like according to your stat block, serve me kind of a thing. But the main thing is the Merid would then tell the party, hey, you look pretty capable and you look like you're not assholes. Maybe you can, I've got this ship. It's currently in the elemental plane of water, but I can teleport us all there, and then you can get a ship that would easily get you to where you need to go. And that would introduce a little bit of a side content, but I think is more social than combat related, and a little bit more fantastical in between. And that's basically the encounter that happens to get the party to the final area. So I could work on looking at that. That's based on a side quest that's in Call from the Deep, but I thought it was such a fun idea that I thought it would be nice to include it here. So you see, we've got all kinds of more things to talk about. There's a lot of stuff happening with the end of Call from the Deep. By the way, if you're wondering if we're going to use the new content from the 2024 book, the answer is no at the moment. The only thing I may use right off the bat would be the new surprise rules, which is that you no longer parties or enemies get an entire round by themselves. It's just too fucking swingy, and everybody realizes that, knows that. Instead, it's just disadvantaged to people who are surprised on initiative, which I think is a lot better. So that might be something I would include, but otherwise, I don't want to change anything mid campaign at the moment, but you can rest assured probably for our next campaign, we would be most likely using the new stuff. All right, I think that is going to do it for this Thursday edition of Crafts in the Deep. If you enjoy the content, as always, please check out patreon.com/Rogue Watson. Shout outs to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brennan, Zensider, Eclectic Roleplay Roll, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F, John L, Nathan, Camp Crystal Lake, Counselor Andrew, The Reldron, Stephanie, Patrick, Jason, Ismail, Amat, Lumpy Spud, Sharni, Warden, Harold, Unimoni, LLC, Jamie, Reese, Tom, and AJ. And gold patrons, RPG, Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Diddles Lounge, Jerome, and Nathan, Fast Like a Tortoise, Scott, Rufus, Karen, Jerry, Glenn, Marcus, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support. I will see you tomorrow for our D&D session.